side, up the middle, first down, stiff arms, hop, skips, at the 40, P-Rod.
Mayfield, the fade to the corner to Shepard. He got it!
Mixon, touchdown.
Marquise Brown behind the defense for an Oklahoma touchdown.
5, Murray lofts one up for Campbell.
Oh my gosh.
What a catch!
Hurts, wide open, CD in space. CD Lamb still running, hits a corner, CD
Moved. Purdy, can he rescue this? Purdy lofts it up. Jump ball, and it is intercepted.
Throws.
Oh, what an interception! Oh my gosh! DJ Graham! Give me that, Odell!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another AnythingOU podcast on the Chris and Drew Show. On this episode, we have a very special guest with us, the voice of Sooner softball himself, Mr. Chris Plank. Chris, welcome to the show, man. And thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, Drew, Chris, you and Drew, I appreciate you guys having me on. Any chance I get to talk more about Oklahoma Sooner athletics and specifically when it's softball, I'm down. So let's go. I appreciate you guys having me on.
So
Yes, sir.
Before we go into the softball, kind of talk about and tell our listeners and our viewers just a little bit about you. You know, where are you in the world? How did you get into Sooner sports, the TV, the radio, the sidelines, and just et cetera, calling games, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I've been a radio lifer. I graduated from the University of Tulsa and immediately started working in Drew's neck of the woods at 1430 in Tulsa. And I worked there for 18 years. I got to do a lot of cool things while I was there. I was the sports update guy on Phil and Brent on KMOD. I was the sports update guy with, Billy and our, from Billy and Biggie to Corbin and Biggie and, everyone over. I lived this wild kind of life in the 20s to where it was nonstop sports 24/7. And I was like, okay, let's start getting real professional in this. And so finally, I did an afternoon show on 1430 for a long time. Then around 2011, Toby got the OU play-by-play job. So that opened up a sideline reporter's role. And we had just acquired the rights to the network over the last couple of years on 1430, my flagship. So I kind of got lucky and got a break to do the spring game in 2011, and it clicked. And I've done every football game since on the sidelines. I used to commute back and forth from Tulsa to Norman, and it was great. But in 2015, we moved down here. And so you say, where am I at in life? I'm sitting in my studio in Goldsby, Oklahoma, waiting for it to ice. And we're on, so 2011, so 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. We're heading into our 12th football season. And for us, it's been great to be down here because as we head in now to my, I guess 7th softball season, it's not crazy. It's crazy traveling, and I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I'm coming home, to Norman. When the bus drops them off, I don't have to drive to Tulsa. So I do a daily talk show from 9 to noon talking about the Sooners. I hope you guys will check it out. And, because my daughter has a horse, I do Fox Sports Radio. I do Sirius XM ESPNU. I do Mad Dog Sports Radio. You find a place where there's talking sports, and I'm going to do everything I can to be a part of it. So it's a long kind of layout, but at the core of it, I'm an Oklahoma Sooner guy. And that's what is most important.
Man, that's awesome. We and I know your busy schedule and everything like that. So thank you so much for joining us. And for those of us like me that have been listening to you and all that since back in the day in the 918, and then when you got the gig for the sideline reporter, I was like, man, this is awesome because it's gold, with you and T-Row and that, and then doing the coaches show. We always look forward to that, but tonight we're going to talk a little Sooner softball. And I know that's something that you love. And so before we go into the 2022, let's talk about that incredible 2021 postseason, from the regionals all the way through Oklahoma City. Give us kind of a breakdown. I know we kind of went through the regionals, super regionals, no problem. Game one, we drop one 4-3 to James Madison in 8 innings, and right away our backs are against the walls, the number 1 seed. Just take us through that from then till, the run against Florida State in the championship series.
You know what? It was honestly, guys, one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of, because, nothing was given to this team. They had to overcome everything all season long. They didn't have very good pitching. It's kind of wild you think about it. They lose 3 games during the regular season, maybe two. They lost 2 games.
Well, we didn't lose until that Georgia series, in Athens, and when was that? We were like 30-0 or something like that.
They came back and won the next night. Or that same night, I should say. Lost the first game, then played
and then run-rolled them.
And kicked the snot out of them. So it's interesting. I could sit here and talk for an hour on the season that was, but just in general on the run, the great thing about covering diamond sports, right, softball specifically here, is that when you travel with the team, it's not fly in Friday night, get a good night's sleep, wake up Saturday, call the game, go home. You fly in on Wednesday. You might have batting practice when you get there, a little workout. Then on Thursday, you have a game. You go back to the hotel. You hang with the team. Friday, same thing. Maybe you're playing a doubleheader on Friday. So these early season moments are great because you get to know everyone. Well, last year was weird because it was still COVID, and of course we're still in it. So you didn't have a lot of that, right? You would have those moments, but it was more separated. So this team had to overcome a lot of, different ways approaching building a team, and they overcame it all season long. You're right. You mentioned the super regional, and it's kind of wild because you look at it and you're like, man, they went unscathed, and 100% right, Drew. You're 100% right. But it seemed as if everything was a struggle for them from the moment that the tournament field was announced, because they had Wichita State that came to Norman that had no business coming to Norman. They were a much better team. You then had Washington. Washington should have been a top 8 seed. You had Washington, and then they barely were at a place to host their own regional. And Gabby Plain was an Olympic pitcher for Australia. So you stacked the deck, the Royal U stacked the deck against this team, and they kept overcoming. Then Odyssey Alexander is pitching out of her mind in the Women's College World Series.
She had an incredible, amazing year. I was such a fan of her because I was like, oh, I hate that she lost, but our Sooners won. And so it was like, wow, it was just an incredible, tournament, because you had so many narratives, so many people, so many players in that field that were it was a loaded,
Yeah. The thing is, and that was really cool for me, like on a personal level, because I got to call games for Westwood One, and that's had always been like a childhood dream of mine. Childhood from when I knew that there was actually things called radio networks, but I always wanted to do it. That's my fans. I always wanted to call a game on Westwood One. It's like, I probably didn't know what Westwood One was until I was 21. But then in the same vein, it was always doing the Nationals, so you wanted to be a part of it. And that was a big thing for women's sports because, Westwood One carried all the games of the Women's College World Series, and they had never done that before. So yeah, it was a really fun run to break the home run record, to see Jocelyn have the 34 home run season that she did, to see, Jada Coleman and Tiare Jennings become these rock stars as true freshmen. It was to see Kinsey Hansen become an Olympian. It's just they're fun, and to see G Juarez overcome everything she did. 2021 is going to go down as a year that I can remember every moment from 16, 17. So when I say that it's going to be remembered unlike any other, I really do, just because of the excitement from an offensive perspective that it really brought to college softball.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for all of us as fans, and for me, obviously, I love football. I love going to games on Saturdays, stuff like that, season tickets, all that stuff. But what kind of gets us through for Oklahoma fans is we have a really, awesome softball program, and it kind of bridges that gap, and it gives us something to get behind in the springtime and everything like that. And I think for us, we're just like football, we're spoiled because however many years we've had such great softball since Coach Gasso has been there, and it's like we're expected to, compete and win for national championships, just like football. So it's, the best of both worlds, I think, for Sooner fans.
You think about it, the last time that Oklahoma didn't make the Women's College World Series was 2015. And arguably it was their best team. Lauren Chamberlain as a senior and Shelby Pinley. So it's just, it shows you that level of consistency. And even that 2015 team, right? They kind of got hosed with their seeding and having to go on the road to play Texas Tech. I'm sorry, watching the Texas Tech game. They had to go on the road to play Alabama in that super regional setting. So,
yeah, the delay and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been, I just can't even begin to really explain to Sooner fans how blessed we are. And the bottom line, more than anything else, is they understand that level of expectation and they want to be great. They being the Gassos, the alums, the corporate supporters, the staff. I mean, everyone wants to be great. They understand a term we use a lot, the championship mindset. The broadcaster wants to be great. So this is a program that understands the level of expectation that's out there.
Well, and then you start seeing it within the program, the new the renovations, the things like that are getting us to that level. Obviously we're transitioning into the SEC and things like that. And so it's just going to keep moving forward. And that's even more exciting, is because we'll get to put our best against, quote, the other best and stuff. And so those will be conference matchups. And so some of those weekend series, things like that, are going to be incredible. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. There's so many cool things that happen, throughout a calendar year, not to kind of get grandiose here or anything, but, is from being a football guy, football season's over. In those days, you're like, oh gosh, what am I going to do until football? And listen, recruiting, that second signing day isn't as big as it once was. And spring football's coming up, and we never do anything in spring ball. And now the draft, there was all these things that for me were fillers until football came back. But my passion for softball, diamond sports in general, dude, it's up there. I'm juiced, man. I'm really excited. I mean, we could sit here tonight and go through every position if you wanted to, talk about every single member on this roster, and I'd be able to give you something. And with every single one of them, there wouldn't be but I'm worried about this. It's just, I can't wait to see this. They are so blessed with and loaded with talent right now. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. And so, to that point, let's kick it into the 2022 season. I think that the Sooners were just recently voted unanimous #1 by ESPN and USA Today softball preseason. This marks the third time in program history the Sooners have entered as the top team, joining the 17 and 18 teams that you talked about. And then 15 out of those 18 years of the 20-year history, we've been in the top 10. And so you're talking about, that history, that tradition, and it just keeps moving,
They've never, make sure I use my negatives correctly. They've never not been ranked. Yeah. Think about that for a bit. They've never not been ranked in the Final Four. That's amazing. Now, we might have caught a little bit of a break, with the COVID year. That was a year that seemed like it was going to be a building year. But here's the thing. In my time in covering this squad, the 16 team was the defending national champ. And it was a struggle to start the season. The 17 team was the defending national champ. And it was a struggle to start the season, right? There was the weight of expectations, and it bothered them, I think, a little bit early on. And they even had a couple of stretches where they lost. They lost to Cal Poly twice that year in 2017, but they went on and won the national championship. 2018, then again, was another team that was, dealing with the burden of being a defending national champ. And you say a burden, but you kind of welcome it. And, they were amazing from the start of the season on. I mean, I was trying to look back, they got upset by Boston U, which was wild that they got beat, but the whole team was sick. I mean, that was pre-COVID. We were wearing masks on the plane because everyone was sick when we made that trip and lost to Boston U. And then they turned around and what I think only lost one more game. I'm trying to scroll through they only lost one more game the rest of the season until April, and they finally got beat by Oregon. So that was a team that just like came out guns a-blazing, rolled through the regional, rolled through the super regional, and then hit that buzzsaw, which was Washington. Now, so you've learned, right? You've learned from your mistakes. And all right, 17 team maybe struggled a little bit with it. 18 team came out of the gates. They were good. Now with this 22 team, how are they going to learn? Is your freshman going to come in with, when I say freshmen now, they're sophomores. Are they going to come in with this heightened sense of, I'm the man, you can't tell me what to do? No, they're not. But you just make sure that they take every opponent seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And
they can't mess around because they have UCLA in their first weekend on next Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to say we open February 10th and, at Santa Barbara. So right. It's right around the corner. And, with all the returning talent, we'll talk about that first. I mean, you go down the list from Kinsey Donahue all the way down to Jada Johns, all those. I mean, Jada Coleman, who had an incredible year, Tiare Jennings, Nicole May, Grace Lyons. I mean, that is just in itself. If we had those returning, we'd feel good about it, and that's incredible to see. Hey, we just come off a natty and look at all the talent we have returning. That's just incredible to me.
Let's look back. All right. Because I have the box score pulled up and right in front of me. Kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Let's look back at just the starting lineup from the championship series game 3 win. Your 1, 2, and 3 hitters are back. Your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters are all back. The only person that starting lineup from a position perspective that's not back is Nicole Mendez. And Nicole didn't start the whole season. Nicole didn't starting until later in the year. Now she's a little dinged up and kind of lost her spot, but there was an overall, just influx of talent. And Kinsey Donahue, who was the star of the Women's College World Series, didn't even really start until the postseason. So, this team right now, we could go through it, right? Jana Johnson comes back at third. Grace Lyons at short. Tiare Jennings at second. A combination of Kinsey Hansen and Taylon Snow at first. Out in the outfield, you're probably going to see Jocelyn in left and Jada Coleman at center, and then this battle in right field. But what if Jada Coleman's in left field and Riley Boone's in center, and then, out in right field is Jossie. There's so many things that they can do. There's a freshman named Hannah Core who came in. That might be one of the best defensive outfielders that I've seen for a freshman. Kinsey Donahue's got to be in that mix somewhere, right? Alyssa Brito is a transfer in from Oregon, and she can play any position, Drew, any position. So, just in talking about that starting lineup from game 3 of the championship series, just about everybody's back. And I loved your point. If you had half of that starting lineup back, you're like, okay, feel good about things. They've got all of them. And so as long as their pitching continues to develop, and I know Jen Roach is excited about them, they're going to be good to go. Yeah.
And you mentioned, just a few of those transfers you talked about, we got one from Oregon,
Alyssa Brito.
Alyssa Brito. And then you've got, some of those newcomers, those freshmen. Just the list of them. I think what were we in recruiting? Number one.
Yeah. Number one.
And then not to mention, you talked about the pitching. Talk about that, because I think everybody's like, well, we don't really have any veteran pitching except for, I think, Nicole May or anything like that. But I heard in some interviews and things like that, Patty is thinking that's probably our strongest, asset this year is the pitching. And I'm thinking like, wow, really? Like,
Here's what's crazy, okay? Last year, heading into the season, the pitchers couldn't wait to get the season started because they were just getting lit up. They were just getting lit up in practice. The hitters were so far ahead of the pitching, and so they were struggling. This year, it's the exact opposite, and it doesn't seem like it would make any sense, right? There's one player who is returning for Oklahoma, who was a regular part of that pitching rotation last year, and that's Nicole May, who was a true freshman. That I don't even know how much she truly pitched in the Women's College World Series, right? She was great in the Super Regional, but you kind of saw G. Juarez take over. So this year, with all this youth, the hitters are like, we got to get to the season. We're tired of getting worked. So it's kind of an interesting balance from what we saw last year and what we see this year. And yeah, the pitchers have the leg up right now, and it's pretty awesome to see because we know they're going to be able to hit. And I can't wait to see how these pitchers. I hope Troutwine's a great opportunity to really be good for OU this year.
That was what I was going to go in. She was kind of the the big talk about, North Texas. I think she had like a perfect game last year, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
7 innings, 21 strikeouts.
Yeah. I was like, wow. And so, picking up a transfer like that, and then a lot of the new blood coming in, talk about some of those freshmen, talk about some of those young pitchers that have a chance to have a really good season.
It's interesting because I haven't had a chance to see an Emmy Guthrie. She's the freshman out of Lone Grove, and I don't know if she's going to factor into the rotation this year. We'll see. I don't think Patty Gasso brings anyone in and doesn't think they're going to play, but maybe it's going to be a process for her. But the freshman pitcher that everyone's going to want to know about and everyone's going to want to talk about and follow is Jordy Ball. And Jordy Ball is out of Papillion, Nebraska. And this shows you how into softball now I am. If I went back and told this to like 30-year-old Chris Plank, he's like, what in the world are you talking about? But I went and watched Jordy Ball pitch at a select softball tournament this last offseason. I was just jaw dropped. I'm watching ESPN. I'm watching Jordy Ball pitch. She's really good. And I haven't had a chance to meet her yet, but she is an absolute workout warrior. She's confident. She was the 2020-2021 Gatorade National Softball Player of the Year, won it twice in Nebraska. So she's really special. And, we haven't had, Paige Parker is a true freshman in 2015, came in and was dominant. Mariah Lopez had a decent freshman year, right? But I don't really know, right off the top of my head, if you've had a freshman that just comes in and you're like, they're locking this S down. Nicole May maybe a little bit, but you have the veterans in G. Juarez and Shannon Sale. And G was obviously the star in 2019 too, when they tried to make their run. So, this is someone from day one, like Paige Parker was, like Kaylani Ricketts was, like Michelle Gascoigne was, like Jennifer Stewart was. This is someone who's coming in from day one. And they're probably going to be the ace of the staff. So I'm excited to see Jordy Ball. And beyond the pitching, I really like the freshman Tarai Coleman. She can play anywhere. I really like the freshman Hannah Core. She's a really good defensive player. But I think my favorite freshman might be Sophia Nugent. Get to know that name. She can play anywhere.
Right on. Yeah, and anytime with a Coleman, you can't do wrong, right?
Yeah, that's right. I like it.
So, Chris, one of the things that I try to – I love hearing everybody's opinion on name, image, and likeness.
Uh-huh.
And it breaks my heart that, girls don't kind of get the same respect at that, and it's pretty well out there that they're not getting the same opportunities as the guys. And I understand the business aspect of things, but it's stories like the dance team from LSU that just won the national championship that dances because their football team just won, and the previous year they couldn't get funding to go to the national championship, and then they come back after getting funding and they win it. And what do you see name, image, and likeliness, the NIL getting to in softball? Do you think it'll be something that these girls can benefit from, or do you think it won't get to the point of where it needs to be at all?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think they're doing really well. I think that, I'm not going to ever go up and ask how much they're making. Hey, what'd you get? But I think they're doing really well. And here's where I think NIL has really helped softball and some of those sports is in the ability to give lessons and to be able to do things like that. As just quick little backstory, my sister's daughter. So my niece was a college softball player, but they had to work to get her to where she needed to be ready to play college softball. There is a very lucrative world out there for training and camps and things of that nature. So I think that that's one area that's been really good. Also, I would add that you have former players like Lauren Chamberlain went out and put together an agency to really help make sure that these young ladies would be in front of people. And I think that you've seen Grace Lyons that has had some creative things. You know, I don't know much about what the digital prints that you can buy. The wording of it escaped me, but I know some of them are big in that world. I don't think you're going to see them land like the 6-figure car deal. But I know, you know, Jocelyn Allo is the spokesperson for an attorney in town and does all of his commercials. And that's big time. And you add into it that she can hold these camps and do things where she can be paid for speaking engagements. It's not where it needs to be, right? But I do think they're going to see an influx of opportunities continue to grow with the popularity of the Women's College World Series and the sport.
Definitely. And I think it kind of gets overshadowed a lot of times because you have, you know, these big name college football stars and athletes getting their deals and left and right and all this stuff. And it's just kind of blown up. And you don't really get to see some of these, you know, college women athletes that are busting out tail just as hard and just getting overlooked because, you know, they're not as marketable, if you will, you know, and things like that. And I think for us, you know, where we were talking about the championship mindset and the success that our girls are having, it gives them that, you know, quote, upper hand to where they can maybe go out and earn their, you know, quote, respect and things like that and really market themselves well. And it's good to see that, you know, some of those things are out there for them to go reach for and to gain off of, you know?
Yeah. And I'll say this, I have a couple of friends that have hired, you know, different student athletes from all eras, right, to do signings. And she told me that they had as much response, if not more, to the girls doing signings as they did the football guys. So, you know, I'm a father of 3, 2 daughters, you know, dads and moms and aunts and uncles everywhere that these are the kind of people that you want your kids to look up to. So I think that's really benefited in, you know, people turning on the TV and seeing the passion and the belief of a Jada Coleman. And suddenly you're like, man, that's who I want my daughter to be. I don't want my daughter to be, and no offense, but like Billie Eilish. I want her to be Jada Coleman. So I think that there is a lot of role model type things that have helped softball in the way these student athletes handle themselves. They don't get in trouble. They're not doing dumb stuff. And it's really been cool to see that grow and those opportunities out there for them to profit off what is a very family friendly and relatable personality.
Yeah. And another thing that I really like, and you know, my faith and my relationship with God is very important to me.
Yep.
And one of the coolest things I saw out of that team last year was their belief, not only in each other, but their connectiveness towards, you know, their relationship with Christ and their devotionals and their you know, their prayer times and their you know, Bible studies and things like that. And it's infectious. It's infectious to see and to follow on social media and things like that, and watch these girls. And like you talked about, that's such a great, well-rounded role model. You know,
I mean, I'll say this, and you know, I won't get, you know, too deep, obviously, in my faith or anything of that nature. But being with this team since, you know, I started traveling with them in 2016 has changed my life. So that's just, you know, that's the reality of how special not just the players, but the entire group of people, from, you know, Patty and Jim Gasso to Jackie Livingston to, you know, JT and Jen Rocha and Melissa Lombardi before her, and everyone from the grad assistants that come back and those that stay around. It's a really, really special group from top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not an act. It's not an act.
No, it's not. And I really believe that. And I think a lot of, you know, and I live in Northwest Arkansas. I'm surrounded by Razorback fans and everything like that. And
oh boy.
Yeah. And so it's, for me, I'm so passionate. They're like, you love OU sports. Like, there's nothing that you don't watch. I said, they go, you know, we you know, we'll have a bad year here and there, do something like that. And it's like, but it seems like you watch everything OU. And I was like, I just love it.
You have to.
I mean, it's contagious. And I think it rubs some people the wrong way sometimes because how I'm so, you know, passionate about it. But and even I had some of them watching the College World Series last year, and some of them, my friends and people that I go to church with, and they're like, man, I love this team. There's something about this team. And I said, hey, go check them out on social media. Go see what they're doing. Go and, they're listening to, worship music and stuff on the way to games, things like that. It's just, I was like, and they were like, I had no idea. I was like, man, these girls are just, they're solid and they're fun to watch on and off the field because they live it, 24/7. And I don't want to put any pressure on them or anything, but they're even a role model to me because I'm like, man, that's how I want to live my life. And
they're good. I mean, and again, Drew, it's not an act, man. It's not an act. It's from top to bottom. That's the mindset, and that's what they're all about.
Yeah. So obviously we have our expectations for the 2022 season. Can we run the table? Can we do it again? Can we repeat?
There's going to be a couple of can they repeat? Absolutely. This is going to come down to pitching and how it develops. And I don't know how much time we have left. I see the countdown clock, but I'll just say the challenging spots for them on their schedule, to me personally, are going to be the trip to Austin, where I don't really know how good Texas is, but then again, there's a team that I don't think is very good that's in the top 5. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but trip to Texas is going to be tough. It always is. That is never easy to go down there, even though the last time we went, they've swept them the 6 times I've been down there. And, some of these early season tournaments are going to be really challenging, right? They got to play UCLA right out of the gates, on Saturday night. That's going to be tough. The Houston trip is one, but when they go to the Marietta, you got Arizona, you got a Tennessee team. In the Hall of Fame Classic, you're bringing Iowa in. So listen, there's going to be some challenging trips ahead for Oklahoma, but it's going to, I think they have a chance to have a regular season mark similar to what they did last year. They're by far head and shoulders the best team in the Big 12, but yeah, they've got a great opportunity to put themselves in that top 8 near the end of the season, so they don't have to worry about going on the road for super regional play.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I really hope it is a back-to-back.
It can be.
It'd be great.
It can be. The key there, of course, is pitching. They're going to hit, and if you don't hit, you're going to sit on the bench because there's someone behind you that's ready to go. And I don't say that to be mean. That's the reality of it. But they've really got to – they need their pitchers to step up in a big way.
Yeah.
They need them to be elite, and I think they've got the chance to do that.
Well, and you say that, and I think, with the hitting part, it's the expectations. That's why you come to Oklahoma and play softball, is because that expectation is going to be there. And I think they welcome that because they're like, all right, you know what? We've got something to uphold. I think we're excited about this year, and let's go out there and let's together, let's go get it.
Yeah, they got the number 1 recruiting class in the country coming in this year. They got the number 1 recruiting class in the country coming in next year. They've already got the number 1 recruiting class in the country. So they've really done a good job of not only stocking the cupboard for this year, but next year and years beyond. They're going to be really good for a while. They're not going anywhere.
Well, Chris, we appreciate your time, man. Hope the rest of your night goes well, and you are always welcome on our podcast.
Yeah, call me anytime, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Keep up the great work. I love it anytime that we get a chance to just kind of sit and chop it up when we're talking OU sports. Call anytime, and I appreciate having me on.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
Night.
See you guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been it. This is an Anything OU Chris and Drew Show podcast. And Drew, you got anything you want to leave the people with?
Hey, as always, we thank you so much for your support. Thanks for your listening, your likes, your follows. Don't forget to go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, go up there, hit that bell for notifications for all the new content. Hey, I'm Drew. Boomer.
Sooner.